Hello everyone and welcome to our Tuesday training today. Today, GME's product manager, Nathan Kokoska, will be taking you through an overview of the current GME commercial portfolio. In this training, he will also be touching on suitable applications for these radios. Good news is sitting in with Nathan today is Tony DePaulo, GME's service manager, and Matt Blyde, their lead software engineer. So at the end of the training, if you have any sort of trickier questions, they'll be there to help with that. On the questions side of things, can you please be sure to type your questions in the Q&A box that is provided. They will answer it at the end of the webinar. As you guys know, this training is being recorded for further training purposes down the line. So there we go. Nathan, without further ado, can you please take it away for our dealers?
Thanks, Darian. Can you hear me okay?
I can perfectly.
Excellent. Hey guys, well, thanks for dialing in and joining us today. I think we've got a pretty good audience, which is good to see. So to jump into the portfolio range stuff, for those of you guys that joined last December, you'd be aware that we launched what we call our new foundational portfolio, and that was the exclusive for the commercial dealers, the 40 series portable and mobile, which is geared towards entry-level commercial application. And then our 50 series, which is considered a fully featured commercial analog solution. We moved to one single software license for all radios, so the dongle is not required to access the programmer for these, and they're all backed by a 5-year warranty. So jumping into the commercial portables first up, and again, this might be a refresher for some of you guys, or it might be some new information for others. So what's the difference between the CP40 and the CP50? Well, the radios are the same form factor. There are a couple of differences. Now, the first to cover off first is your CP40. So out of the box, this is pre-enabled with 80 UHF CB channels and can also run 119 private channels and up to 10 zones. 19 hours talk time, 1.5 watt audio internally and 750 milliwatt audio externally. And I'm going to cover off on a audio boost feature that was introduced last month on the next slide. IP67 and mil spec, and also runs duress or emergency, DTMF, 5-tone cell call, and MDC 1200. So at 450 list, that radio is pretty feature rich as far as what it can and can't do. The primary differences, if a customer is upgrading or looking to upgrade to something a little bit more feature rich, is the CP50. Now, at the moment, that price difference is $75. The first thing that's different is they're going to get an enhancement to the number of channels and zones. So they'll go from 119 to 2,000 total channel capability. They'll also pick up lone worker and man down and be able to run RSSI and busy voting. So really, the extra $75 gives you more channels, some safety features, and the RSSI and busy voting. So that's the core differences between the two at the moment. And they're both backed by a 5-year warranty. Now, last December we presented, and it's the specs on the spec sheet at the moment. So the way the radio was designed, through the microphone of the radio itself or the internal speaker, you're getting up to 1.5 watts of audio, which is pretty loud. Through the accessory port, we're only driving 750 milliwatts of audio. So you're basically getting half the audio power. What that means is that when you're connecting a speaker mic like the MC012 through there, and you're in a louder environment, it's not that great because you can't actually hear what's coming through on the mic. So what Matt Blyde came up with was a firmware fix, which adds up to 12 dB gain into the firmware. This is free to download from the dealer portal. It did come out in October. Now, by installing the firmware, it'll automatically put the highest setting on there, which is high, which is plus 12 dB. And then through the programmer, you can also set up a configuration so that the user themselves on the radio can change to low, which is what it is at the moment, just standard, medium, which is plus 6, or high, which is plus 12. That makes an absolute massive difference. You're looking at well over 100% improvement to the audio output, which is really, really noticeable through the accessory connector. So definitely something, if you haven't started, if you didn't know about that, it's a good thing to know now. Radios that are manufactured from the middle of this month will have that out of the factory. So they'll run with that latest firmware pre-installed. For older radios, it's simply a matter of downloading it from the dealer portal. So based on all that, what are the key industries that we fit into? So from our perspective, where we see a lot of success is in those areas where radios need to be robust. There's a level of the customers still requiring CB, but also their ability to run private channels and can get away with running analog or need analog. So construction's a good example of where that's a fit for a crane operator or a dogman. Obviously, the delay through the digital vocoder can be detrimental. So a lot of those guys still actually prefer to use analog radios in that space. And that's where we think we're a great fit, especially for the Australian construction industry. Roadworks and traffic control is a real obvious one. All those guys are out there running CB anyway. It's a great environment for those guys to look at, continuing to run CB, but also have one or two private channels when it gets too busy. And again, no real need for digital in that space. And many of those guys are very familiar with the GME brand. Many of them are using GME CBs, so CP40 or 50 is a great upgrade. Farming's another very obvious one, and we've had a lot of success with schools as well. A lot of schools are out there using mobile phones or voice only. The CP40 is definitely well priced, backed by the 5-year warranty, the 6-bay charger, and again, schools don't really need the digital application; they just need access to CB channels on field trips and dedicated comms for drop off and pick up at school. So those are 4 vertical industries that we're currently having some success in, and that's where we think we're a fantastic fit with the value proposition and what the radios can do. All right, so moving on to the commercial mobiles. So again, these products launched last year. I'm just going to run you through the differences. The CM40 is your entry-level mobile, so that runs only 450 to 520. It's CB out of the box and has 5-watt maximum transmission. Up to 119 private channels and 10 zones, just like the CB40. Now, this will also run DTMF, duress, and has 5-tone and MDC 1200. So there's a few more noticeable differences between the CM40 and the 50. So it's an extra $100, which is not too bad price-wise. The first one is the option for a VHF variant. So that is only available in the CM50. CM50 also runs up to a maximum of 25 watt, and you can also run it as 5 watt as well if you needed to. You'll get more channels and zones with the CM50, and you also get RSSI and busy voting in there as well. Now, I haven't put them in this presentation because there isn't. The next slide, next couple of slides is going to show you, but there are also sales kits available currently on the CM50, the remote head option and the UIC 600, but we are going to be spruiking that up a little bit in February. So before I talk about that, so again, the other key industries, again, that we believe the CM40 and 50 fit well in, I think the most obvious one to me is definitely the cranes. The form factor of the CM40, the 5-watt functionality, and the new product that's about to release with that, I think will have a very, very strong value proposition for crane operators. Mining is obviously a big one for us in WA. We already sell a truckload of CM50s and 60s into mining. Farming and forestry, forestry more so within New Zealand because of the VHF radio that we now have, but also some of you guys that do work in that industry, and also heavy industry as well, things like quarries. We tend to sell a lot of our mobiles into. So the key selling point with our mobiles, I believe, is the form factor. We're about probably 30 or 40% smaller than most of the other commercial mobiles out there. And price-wise, from what I'm told, priced really well as well. All right, and then on the CM60 front, nothing really new to report here. Just to recap, so the CM60s, they are available both in 5 and 25 watt options. Now you do have the additional option of running 400 to 480 megahertz, which is what we call UHF low. I will be putting those into the price book because there has been a bit of calling for that. They're only available on the 25 watt versions for the UL 400 to 480 and the VHF 134 to 174. In addition, these all have 2,000 private channels, 50 zones, DTMF duress emergency, and you also have the ability to run voting as well as add on P25 conventional encryption trunk licenses. All right, so in summary, with the frequency bands across the different range there, so 450 to 520 is available across all of our portables and mobiles. VHF Currently, no plans for a VHF portable in the current CP40, CP50 form factor. CM40, we don't have a VHF and no plans to. VHF is on the CM50 and CM60. And then if you're after UHF low, currently that's only available on the CM60. If there's a big calling for it, then we could look at introducing a CM50 version of that in the future. To cover off on the programming and license keys, so the HASP Sentinel key, I've mixed reviews about that in the channel. A lot of dealers love it because it makes them feel like it's a bit more exclusive. A lot of dealers didn't really like it because they might lose the HASP key or they might forget it when they're going out to do an install. So in any event, what we have done is introduced a new license key called the GME Commercial Analog License File. That's generated by Tony's team. Every time we onboard a new dealer, you will get the license key. That'll be emailed through with a set of instructions on how to store that on your PC. Now, that license key can be used across multiple devices in your organization simultaneously. And it's a piece of software, so it's pretty easy to regenerate if you couldn't get access to your laptop for whatever reason. Now, that license key is only available on our new commercial analog radios, the 40 and 50 series. The HASP key is now only used whenever you're programming a CM60 series. If you're getting a CM60 and you only want to run analog, you still need to have the HASP key to access the programmer. To grab a license file, to obtain one, you can get that through tech support at gme.net.au, or again, you can go through ACE to request that on your behalf and they will make that request. All right. So guys, that brings us to the end as far as what I had to sort of present to you guys, but we'll just open it up to Darian for any questions or feedback from myself, Tony, or Matt